Our Highway 89 ILEAD project is an example of how a thought or an idea expressed out loud can become a great collaborative project. In 2012, at a SEMA conference in Mesa, Arizona, a group of us attended a presentation on Route 66. A group of people were gathering information, photographs, memorabilia, and preserving Route 66. I remember after that presentation was over, as I was standing out in the hallway, Brad Cole from Utah State University said to me, "I wonder if we could do something like that with Highway 89. So thus, the Highway 89 Digital Collections Project was created through a cooperative effort among Special Collections and Archives folks in the state of Utah. Now, the Special Collections and Archives folks in the state of Utah are a close-knit group of people anyway, and so making the leap to expand that and to be a collaborative group was quite easy with us. So this is a list of the people that are our Phase 1 contributors to our Highway 89 project. From this group of people, a smaller group was created that had unique skills and awesome qualifications, and they became the ILEAD team that was part of this collaboration. We feel that we are uniquely qualified to tell the story of Highway 89. I'm from Cedar City, Utah, so I bring the expertise from the southern end of Highway 89 with the national parks connection and the tourism from the national parks there. Clint Pumphrey is from Utah State University, and he brings our northern connection to Highway 89. And he is also will next year have an article in the Utah State Historical Society about Logan Canyon, specifically talking about Highway 89. It will be published. Liz Woolcott was our metadata librarian. She's from Utah State University, and she put together our best practices and helped us really gather the metadata for this collection, for our collaborative collection. And she's going to talk about a little bit about that. And also she is doing our quality control. I also forgot to say that one of our members, Andy Weselek, took a new job at Clemens University, and Clint has stepped in and has become our leader in this. Dustin Olson has also stepped in, and he has done our website and done the customization of our website, and he'll talk about that. Jim Kichas is from the Utah State Archives, an archivist there, and he's bringing in our government records, and he has also done our promotional and been our liaison with our marketing on that. We'd also like to thank our mentor, Steve Matthews, to help us and to keep us on track with our project. So I'm going to turn the time over to Clint.
All right, thanks, Paula. So I had my mid-tenure review last week, and they said between your article that you got on Logan Canyon Highway, the master's thesis you wrote about tourist development in Jackson, Wyoming, and this ILEAD project that you're doing, you're shaping up to become the expert on Highway 89. And I don't know about that, but I do have elbow patches, so that lends some credibility there. But what I'm going to do with my part of the presentation is just kind of step back from the technical aspect of the project and just talk a little bit about why Highway 89, why is it important, and I'm going to do that through talking about a little bit about the history of the road, and then talk a little bit about the kinds of attractions and things, and show some examples of some archival documents that we have and other institutions have related to Highway 89. Okay. All right, so Ann Torrance touched on a little bit of this, but hopefully most of it's pretty new. Highway 89 stretches 1,600 miles from Pekin, Montana in the north, to Nogales, Arizona in the south, and it passes through 5 states: Montana, Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, and Arizona. It was designated by the Bureau of Public Roads in 1926, and initially it only stretched from Mexico to Spanish Fork, Utah. It didn't go all the way north to Canada. but it was only extended north into Canada in 1938. Now, interestingly, one of the things that I think people in Utah might find interesting is that initially there was a fight about where the highway would go through northern Utah and Wyoming and Idaho. And so the Utah Highway Department wanted it to go through Ogden and Brigham City and Logan, but the Wyoming Highway Department was really pushing for it to go through Kemmerer and Evanston and up that way. And I think we all know that who won that fight, Utah, right? So it does go through Ogden, Brigham City, and Logan, and the route that goes through Kemmerer and Evanston is actually 189. So that's kind of where that numbering came from. Since that time, there have been a few changes to the route. In 1959, 1960, it was rerouted through Page, Arizona, to facilitate the construction of the Glen Canyon Dam. And the original route is now called Highway 89A. So that's where that came from. I gave a little talk about Highway 89 back in February, and at that time, a part of Highway 89, the current Highway 89, had actually collapsed, and they were rerouting everybody onto the original route, onto Highway 89A. So we came full circle then. And then finally, the last major change was in 1992 when the Federal Highway Administration decommissioned the section south of Flagstaff, and it has since been superseded by I-10, I-17, and I-19. Okay, so why is this important? Why is this worthy of creating a digital collection out of? Let me start answering that question by showing you, talking about something that everyone loves to talk about, literature. There have actually only been a couple of books that have been written that include Highway 89 as the major theme. The one on the left is by a geographer, Thomas Vail, who basically used the imagery along Highway 89 to define what the West is. And in fact, when I was looking for the book on the library shelves, we're all you guys are librarians, so you know that often looking at the books around a book can tell you a lot about that book that you're looking for. And so it was kind of stashed in between books about like Buffalo Bill and all that kind of stuff. So I think that lends itself to saying Highway 89 is definitely a Western highway. And then, of course, the book on the right, which is Ann Torrance's book, and it was buried between books about Route 66 and the Lincoln Highway. Okay, real quick. So what makes Highway 89 a Western highway? Well, one of the main things that Ann talked about earlier was its proximity to the national parks. And because of that, a lot of that kind of classic imagery, Western imagery, it's gained several nicknames. The cross-section of the West, the Highway to Grandeur, the Fabulous Boulevard of National Parks, Scenic Route of Three Nations, and the Treasure Trail, which was the title of the song that we played in our video, if you guys remember from the first session. But there are some other things that make Highway 89 important and interesting. Kind of like the things that you associate with Route 66, there's a lot of beautiful scenery that aren't national parks. Logan Canyon, there kind of in the middle is one, and other landmarks like the Salt Lake Temple there, and then lots of roadside architecture and signs and billboards. And Dustin and Liz are going to show you some exhibits we created around those themes later. But all these are postcards and photographs and documents from Utah archives that relate to Highway 89. All right, so not surprisingly, this route has been promoted for tourism. The International 89ers Highway Association, founded in 1955, this is their letterhead. They promoted the highway to be the great route of three nations, all the way from Mexico up through Canada. And this is the album that song came off of, this orange album, so that's pretty cool. But I think that what this tells us, what we can learn from the 89ers, is that we want to promote Highway 89 kind of like they did. That we want to promote and help remember the memory of Highway 89 through historic photographs and document collections. And one of the great things about Highway 89 is you can still drive almost all of it. And so, unlike Route 66 where you get on and off the interstate and other highways to try to get on it, you can take a road trip up and down Highway 89. And so we really want, people to think about doing that. And so with that, I'm going to turn my time over to Liz and Dustin.
Now, he was as far away from the technological side of things as he could be, and I'm going to jump right into that because this is way more interesting, right? So at this point, we knew what we were going to cover. We knew who was involved. We just needed the how. We needed to know, how are we going to promote this? How are we going to put these materials out there for people to see? And at this point in time, of course, this was before I was involved, but we started looking at a number of pieces of software. Of course, we wanted something online, easily accessible and viewable by anyone and everyone who wanted to either learn more, or maybe they were taking a road trip, they wanted to know places to stop, or maybe they're on a road trip and they kind of wanted to follow the site along the way. So I guess we had a number of things we're looking for in a piece of software, and we looked at a few different technologies. Of course, we knew we wanted to stay away from Content DM if we could help it. Anyone who's been involved with that might understand why. We'd also looked at Drupal, and then we looked at Omeka. And a few of the things we were looking for, we needed a robust user interface. We knew we were going to involve multiple institutions. And ideally, we didn't want to do all the work for them. We wanted them to be able to upload their own content and kind of manage that aspect of things. So we knew we wanted map integration. We wanted to show where along 89 these different areas were, or these photographs came from. We wanted an appealing visual interface, something of interest, something not so boring, and something functional, unlike Content DM can be at times. So we wanted to work out of the box, unlike other softwares do, or as much out of the box as possible with minimal customization. And then, of course, accessibility via mobile devices. So after all was said and done, we looked at the software packages we had. We decided on Omeka because it really fit the criteria here. So I got it installed, got a server set up, got it installed, and that's what default Omeka looks like. Not exactly the visual appealing interface I was looking for. Luckily, Omeka realizes this and had this in mind, and as such, they have a number of different themes. This is their admin interface. Of course, you're all semi-familiar with it from last time, looking through and changing a few things, but I just kind of want to go over how easy it is. And these are a couple default themes. If I wanted to use this season's theme, for example, all I have to say is use that theme. And maybe I want to further configure it to use a different, color scheme or whatnot. And they have 4 different color schemes here. Save changes, and what do you know? We've got a better looking interface already. There are a few downsides to this. First of all, we wanted to customize the homepage a little bit. We wanted additional features and whatnot on the homepage, a map, and so on and so forth. Additionally, when we uploaded a logo image at the top, it made it so the header literally took up half the page. So just to scroll down, or just to see any content, you'd have to scroll halfway down the page. So from a usability standpoint, it wasn't quite up to par. So I got in and started customizing, started poking around, and I think we've come up with something that we're pretty happy with. So this is the website, highway89.org. Surprised it was available, but it was. So we grabbed it. And we've got it for at least 10 years, so how's that? But highway89.org, and we've got, where we can feature some pictures here, slideshow, a little bit of information. We've got a featured exhibit, which of course is one of the main things we figure people will come here for, is some of these exhibits if they want some sort of themed experience throughout 89. And then of course, on the lower half here, we've got a map where each item has a little pin on the map, and you can scroll in and see more detail and so on and so forth. The links bring up the different items, and it goes right to the item page where they can read further information about the specific item. And of course, see a full-size image if they so desire. So it met a lot of our criteria. It really showcases a lot of these items and allows us to feature different exhibits or different themes or what have you. Here is, from a usability standpoint, one of the nicest features. From a programming standpoint, one of the most difficult. Like I said, one of the things we wanted was to be accessible on mobile devices. The nice thing about this theme, which is a default theme in Omeka, as you bring it down, it switches to a mobile view and fits just fine on an iPad or a phone or what have you. And everything looks great. It's nice and clean. And I didn't have to program a totally separate website or anything, though it did take some time to work out. So from that standpoint, again, we figure a lot of people might be viewing this from their cars or as they're on road trips or visiting, certain locations. Maybe just real quick, I'll take you through some of the plugins that Omeka offers. I mean, there's a huge range of plugins, and I think we installed just about all of them. And we're using most of them, actually, and I have plans to use a few more in the future. So it's very user-friendly, and that's one thing I liked about it is, yeah, I've got in and done a few customizations, but right out of the box, I mean, it's got all these plugins, got all this functionality already. And it's nice and easy to use, super easy to install a plugin or install a new theme or what have you. And you can further configure each of these themes as needed. The other thing, of course, we needed is a robust user system. So for each of these institutions has their own login. They can log in, upload their own content, and like I said, doesn't need to involve us at all. So it's no extra work on our part, and we can involve a large community, a large number of institutions and whatnot, and they can upload content and it can keep growing on its own. So it's great. It's a perfect interface for what we're wanting to accomplish. So other than that, again, we've got our main exhibits page where we do list out our exhibits. If the interwebs will work for me, there we go. So each exhibit, of course, you come in here and you can choose a different theme, whatever direction you want to go. We've got a map page with all the items, and you can scroll through there. We've got a timeline set up such that if you want to go by date, it's a little harder to navigate on a laptop, but it is possible. So you can scroll through and see when these items were put up, and this is all automated. This is all plug-in. It took a little bit of work, but really minimal considering the output. So we tell about the project, kind of describe who we are and how we got together. We've got our Phase 1 contributors again on this page, and then a contact page if they need or want to contact us. So we covered everything we want to do. We met all our goals, and Omeka's worked great for us. We haven't had any problems with it. So I've enjoyed working with it, even though getting it to work on mobile devices and change like that was a little bit of a pain. But I think worth it in the end, and I think it's turned out nicely. So I'll let Liz walk you through a few of the other things we've got here and maybe some specific plugins. So thank you.
So I'm going to tell you a bit about how we got all of our content into here, because that was a little bit more of a challenge, not compared to like customizing the website. But one thing we had to do was we had 10 partners, like institution partners in the beginning, who were all interested in uploading content, and they all came from a variety of different levels of resources and ability to upload things. So at first we had bandied about the idea of doing a website which just links out to content. So we'd have our nicest stuff up in kind of a little bit of an exhibit and then link to everybody's database. But we thought, users want one-stop shopping. They don't want to go at other places. They don't know what's in other people's databases. They're not going to make that leap. So, and then we also had the problem that some of our smallest institutions that wanted to contribute did not have a web presence or a content management system to begin with. And that in the long term, this would also be a problem as we started to reach out and pull in more institutions. And so we wanted something that could be used for everybody. So we decided the best route was to do an aggregator system. So we'd pull it all into one site. So our options are either use an existing content management system and have one person upload everything. And that was not a fun idea. And nobody wanted to do that one. And it would also create a real bottleneck long-term, especially as we pulled in more people, so it's not scalable. So we went with the user accounts that Dustin just showed you. Went with Omeka because it had the ability to set up an account for each individual institution, and they could upload their own content. So this spread out the workflow. It gave everybody ownership of their own material. They were able to control it, edit it, update it, upload it when they wanted to, take it down if they needed to. And I think the overall best benefit of that is that their hands-on interaction with the website and with the project as a whole means an investment on the part of that institution. And we wanted to keep that going long term. But the downside to this is that you lose consistency of metadata. And from my perspective, doing all the QC, that was horrifying. So what we did is we came up with a metadata and submission guidelines. Let me pull that up right here. And I put a copy of it on each of your desk. You can kind of see what we did. So this one, it kind of just describes the project and who was involved in the beginning. And we do have it licensed Creative Commons for you. And then what it focuses on is just the tools you needed, the workflows, and then our metadata standards for it. So we basically adopted the Mountain West Digital Library application profile as a whole, and that was our base. And then we just edited had a couple of things that we tweaked, like the geospatial information was mandatory here because we were relying on the map interfaces so heavily. So, but we wanted to put it all into one spot for everybody to see. So it's included as a template in the back. And then we also created this, and this one's kind of hard to see, but we created a spreadsheet so that people could just plug in their information into the spreadsheet and then upload it. And everything's there, the mapping, the description, everything. And then we shared these documents via Dropbox for everybody, so everybody has access to it. And whenever we update it, it's right there for everybody. But the nice thing about the submission guidelines is that in addition to telling you about the metadata standards that we're using, which is mostly boring for most people, it also does a step-by-step instruction of how to upload into Omeka. So if you guys are ever looking to use an installation, you're welcome to use this. That I put on each of your desks, or you can email me, I'll give you a copy. Anyway, so it does it. We had to make it extensible for different types of institutions. So those small institutions that didn't have anything in a repository already would be able to use that template, that spreadsheet, populate it with their information, upload it themselves. If you just got one item into your collection one day, someone walks in the library and they have this item that they would like to scan, you can do one at a time. So we have a workflow for that. We have a workflow for batch edits. We also have a workflow for downloading it from your repository and editing it and uploading into Omeka. And then we have one for just doing an OAI pull. So we go to your existing repository and pull it out. So we try to make it extensible for any type of institution that would be participating. Right now, we've got 6 institutions that have uploaded content so far and more that are planning. And so if any of you guys, your libraries would like to do that, feel free to email me. We'll get you an account. And then you can just go for it.
Okay, so obviously this project has a lot of potential for contribution and for having some really enduring value over a long, extensive period of time. So when we started talking about what we could do to promote it, because really promoting it is going to serve as the backbone, getting people excited about it, getting content onto the website. We figured we needed promotional material that also was of some kind of enduring value. The June poster session, I think, served as kind of a good lead-in for us to think about what we might do. And we all kind of agreed with Highway 89 being the national park highway that it is, 7 national parks long. It'd be really cool if there was some way we could tie in to the WPA National Park posters. Between 1938 and 1941, the WPA, Works Progress Administration, created posters of the national parks. 14 of them have survived, and now they've been commercialized. If you ever go into a national park gift shop, you'll see all of these posters available. So we thought something like that would be really cool. I wonder what we could do. And there must be something, I don't know, maybe magical about SEMA conferences, because the idea came out of the one in Arizona. We gave a session in this past May at the Conference of Intermountain Archivists annual conference that was held in Salt Lake City. And afterwards, we were approached by a gentleman named John Clark. And John's a really interesting guy. He's a designer, and you see his work every day because he designed the Ski Utah license plate, the new one. That's that design. He also has a deep love of classic cars and road trips and roads and national parks. So he came up and introduced himself. I had worked with him previously. A couple of years ago, he had come in to do an Archives Month event for us, promoting this book that him and his wife made. And I'm going to do a really super quick tangent because I'm a dork who gets really excited about primary source documents. So his wife was looking on eBay one day, and she finds a scrapbook collection, and she decides to buy it because it's cheap. They get it, and this scrapbook collection actually tells the story of this promotional tour that was done right after Zion National Park was made a national park in 1920. The Salt Lake and Los Angeles Railroad line paid for 6 girls who were at the sorority at the University of Utah to come down and do a weekend of promotional activities down in Zion, and they photographed it. And somehow scrapbooks of this ended up on eBay. John and his wife bought it, made a book out of it, and this is an example of John's illustrations. Here's another example. You can see stylistically his stuff is very, very similar to what you see with those WPA prints. So we got to talking and thinking, well, enduring value, maybe we can bring John in on this, and maybe we can make something really cool that we could use to sell this project. I contacted him, and he was tremendously excited about the opportunity. So we commissioned him to do a piece of art for us that we can now use across a number of platforms to promote the project. And this is the piece of art that he came up with. I've put up there what he wrote to me, his inspiration. He said, "I studied several Highway 89 images and felt that the landscape most prevalent along the route included mountains. This one is inspired by Loafer Mountain as seen from Bird's Eye, Utah. Less direct inspirations also come from Logan and Marysvale canyons. I love to get an early start on every road trip I take, so the colors are designed to capture the feel of an early morning when the sun begins to rise and you set out on that grand adventure." Should also note, if there's a question, the car in that picture is a 1964 Ford Galaxy. So, with this image in hand, we took the next step and we actually created promotional material, which we will have available for all of you to take, hopefully back and help us promote our project. So we have these posters. And then we also have postcards. So that's the promotional end of things. I'm going to take just a few minutes to wrap up to talk about the vision of sort of what we agree and where we think this project can go, some of the opportunities and challenges that are inherent to it, and sort of our plans for moving forward with things. Right up front, the most obvious, exciting potential this project holds is the discovery of new collections. People having things in their attics, people who live along Highway 89 who might have something that they want to contribute. Getting this stuff discovered and in the hands, or at least on the radar of professionals who know how to deal with historic documents and know how to help preserve them and make them accessible. It's also a good way for the participating repositories to kind of scan their own collections and see what material might be available and appropriate for inclusion. As an example, I work for the State Archives, and so one of my jobs now, one of my tasks is I am doing a thorough survey of our collection to see what local community records we have of communities along the route. So in the early 2000s, the archives did a project, went down to all these regional spots, and recorded all of the local government records that are now on microfilm at the archives. They're on microfilm, but they're not really that accessible. This serves as a perfect opportunity for us to get into those records, get them digitized, and get them up online so that you can go to a local community and look at their council minutes back to the beginning, or their ordinances, or the things that formed and shaped those places. That's an example from my end. With all the wide variety of repositories that we have involved in this, you know, the sky's kind of the limit. We're finding places have all sorts of really, really great stuff. A challenge, probably the predominant challenge is that we've faced so far is we have all this great stuff, but getting it in the queue and getting it made accessible and follow through on, you know, scheduling. We really can't go in and schedule other places' priorities and tell them do this. It kind of has to be on their timeline. So getting this material out there is something that we're still working with. But I think as the site builds and more content gets on there, people are going to be really even more excited to get to participate with it. Another opportunity / challenge is obviously something like this has tremendous value, a tremendous potential for crowdsourcing, where we could get local people to just submit their own stuff. That has its own inherent challenges. We haven't gone there yet, but that is something that we are looking at. And we are already getting into this. The potential for multi-state collaboration is inherent in this project. We already have Northern Arizona on board with us. Sean Evans, who works at Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff, he was a principal on the Route 66 project. He's in on all of our conference calls. He's helping us. He's contributing stuff that they have from Highway 89. The BYU folks have a connection with one of the libraries in Evanston, so we're bringing Wyoming on board. So real huge potential to make this a multi-state. You know, when you think of Highway 89, this will be what you think of. So that's kind of our plan moving forward, getting the promotional material out there, targeting some of the iconic spots along Highway 89, some of the iconic businesses, maybe thinking how we can get into them and get them helping us with promotion, and just continuing to grow the website from there, because it really has the potential to appeal to both academic researchers who want to get into primary source documents and people who are just interested in the history of Highway 89 and the road. So that's what I've got. So I guess we have time for questions now.
Have you talked to the Utah Travel Council or the state travel?
That is something we're definitely going to do. We haven't got it to a point yet where we're going, but yes, we plan on approaching the Travel Council, Chambers of Commerce, you know, anybody who kind of has some power over money and influence would be people we want to talk to.
Just get them on their website. So
Yeah.
Say, hey, where can I go?
Yep.
Yeah.
One.
Yeah, right now you're a team together, and after tomorrow, everybody goes their own ways. Have you thought about how to continue to, I mean, you have several partners. Are there memorandum of agreements, understanding written in case you move to Illinois? And so who takes over kind of thing?
There's not, but like I said before, the special collections folks and the archives folks are kind of a tight-knit community anyway. Most of us belong to what's called the Utah Manuscripts Association, where we meet, twice? Quarterly. We also have conference calls probably every 2 weeks with a bigger group. So I think with that connection that we'll continue on with this project, even if somebody moves, heaven forbid, I think that it will continue on.
I think the fact that we have buy-in from our administrators makes it huge. Like if I leave the archive, somebody is going to step in and pick up my place.
Let's be honest, I'm just an IT guy.
You mentioned you met John Clark at the SEMA conference. What in the world was he doing there?
He heard about our session.
Is that really?
Yeah.
He actually created little stickers for us that just say Highway 89 so we could put them on our bumpers on our cars. It was really fun.
A suggestion, why don't you hold a prize contest for the best Highway 89 road trip stories?
Good, that'll be great.
Stories would be good.
Yesterday, we heard it from Mountain West Digital and that idea of pioneers in the attic. It seems to me that Highway 89 could be another kind of way of eliciting some of the locals to provide content. But that's a whole other ball of wax and challenge probably.
Yeah, and we don't just want, you know, people's stories and their photographs from their own road trips are great, but we also want to get collections, like archival collections out of this if we can. You know, as we start making connections with businesses along the route, and then, you know, after we build that relationship with them, saying, hey, you know, we can provide a safe long-term solution for your historic materials, you know, what do you think about that? And then that could lead to actually building our collections.
As a follow-on to all of that, the Highway 89 server resides in Cheryl's department. So I don't think there's going to be a problem with this perpetuating. And some of these folks work for Cheryl, and with all the buy-in from all the partners, a very impressive list of folks, it'll never go away.
Are you guys going to integrate the artwork onto your website, or is that just something special?
Yeah, that's something that I've definitely thought of. We had the site pretty well designed and put together before we got the artwork. I mean, we knew the artwork was coming, but that's something I definitely would want to work in there.
As a side note, just of interest, I've been in contact with John about the possibility, if we could get more grant money, or maybe we get in with some of the businesses, having him do separate poster designs, to do like a southern desert poster design, and he was very excited about that possibility and being able to link the posters stylistically so you could almost collect them as a set.
I'm wondering what you folks used your $1,200 from this ILEAD for.
Commissioning John to do artwork.
So who paid for who's paying for you're using a Mac, but you're using their server, so you don't have to pay for it, right? Oh, perfect.
Yeah, it was
Very kind.
yeah.
The kindness of others.
Luckily, we had a server, so it worked out well.
Okay. Pass out postcards to you?